ladies and gentlemen, for invocation, Carter Verbrider.
O Lord, we ask that thou continue thy blessings upon those of us who make up the broadcasting industry. May we always please thee. Be with those of us who are the old guard and the young ones who come anew with dreams and visions. Be, we pray thee, with those we honor tonight, particularly the person of the year, Larry Kane, and all our service to thee. May in everything we do, we glorify thee and make thee proud that we have each passed by. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Captain Noel, ladies and gentlemen. And Pat, where are you? Pat Verbrider, raise your hand. Let everybody see our person of the year from last year. Pat Verbrider and her husband Carter. You know, tonight we have over 2,000 years of experience in this room right now. So if Al-Qaeda hits us, we're in deep trouble in the Philadelphia market. And we're here tonight, of course, to honor a few more people and put them into the Hall of Fame and also to be recognized as our Person of the Year. And we've got people who've been in the business for a long time. Just among the bunch today, Jerry Blavitt, for one, been around for 8 years. The leader here. Diego Castellanos. Diego. One of the longest running shows on Channel 6, the Hispanic program. Edie Huggins, been around forever, but she doesn't work from Channel 10. Dean Tyler. There's going to be a contest tonight between Dean Tyler and Tom Moran. Okay? And I think, yeah, there are a couple of people, PN called and said, tonight we're going to have an actual measurement. We've never seen them literally together. So we don't know which one is a half an inch taller than the other. But is Tom here yet? He's here. There he is. He's got one of the best lines that I've heard ever, and he does it from time to time. He would say, the temperature is 70 degrees, the time is 4:11, and so am I. The great lines in business. And of course, our Person of the Year, who's been around forever, and been everywhere, and you have been watching him, and he's been giving us the news for more years than maybe he would like to remember, specifically in numbers. But Larry Kane, our Person of the Year. We have two other people who are with us in spirit, and I'm referring to Bill Branson and Ed Capacey. And right now, I'd like to introduce our president to say a few words to welcome you and also to begin our program. Ladies and gentlemen, Wee Willie Weber.
Thank you very much, Pat. I appreciate that. I am sorry that we're so crowded tonight, but as Pat mentioned, we're really not that sorry, because all of the monies that are taken from our fundraiser this evening goes to 6 $1,000 scholarships that we will present to 6 seniors in local colleges and universities in the Delaware Valley who are majoring in communication. So hopefully we'll move the baton to the next generation. We're looking at applicants right now. If you know of anyone, please, we have a committee, and we give the awards in May at our luncheon, and we'd love to have you make a suggestion if you can. Just to give you an idea what Broadcasting Pioneers is all about, we're close to 500 people. We're located in the Delaware Valley. Our only idea is that if you have 15 or more years in communication, and I think everyone in this room has that, you are eligible to be a member of Broadcast Pioneers, and we'd love to have you. Talk to Dory Lenz. We'd be pleased to have you aboard, okay? We have luncheons here at the Valley Country Club. Already Pat Shiraki and Yuki Washington and Sharon Pickinson, who's from the Philadelphia Film Department, has spoken to us. In December, the WIP disc jockeys are going to be here, Nat Wright, Tom LeMaine, Tom Moran, Bob Russo, Dean Tyler, all the WIP crew. Merrill Reese is going to speak to us next year. Banyan Productions, from that crew out of Channel 3, they're going to be here to talk about cable programming. So we have interesting luncheons. We'd love to have you come aboard, okay? And be our guest. I'm reminded of the older person, the 4 people who were riding in a car on City Line Avenue, celebrating their 45th anniversary, excuse me. 2 husbands in the front, as usual, carrying on their own conversation. 2 wives in the back, carrying on their conversation. And the driver says to the fellow sitting in the passenger seat, we went to a great restaurant last weekend. It was delicious. Great food, low prices, wonderful ambiance, and for the life of me, I can't think of the name. The other guy says, well, can't you come up with it? He says, it's just such a great restaurant. He said, wait a second. He says, what's the name of that flower that has the long stem and it has red flowers, or sometimes pink, sometimes yellow, maybe white, it has thorns all up and down the long stem? The guy says, Rose. He said, right. And he turns around and he says, hey, Rose, what was that restaurant we went to? Well, I hope that I don't forget any of the names that I'm about to thank. These are the people who are responsible for tonight's gathering and get-together. This is the Hall of Fame group. Pat Delsey is our chairman, Dave Abramson, Loretta Beauvais, and by the way, I don't know if you'll see this, Larry, as you drive around, but the PE building says Broadcast Pioneer salutes the Person of the Year and those going into the Hall of Fame. It was on last night and the night before, and again tonight, thanks to Loretta's efforts. Herb Clark, Linda DeGurio, Pat Delsey, as we mentioned. Jack Hyland was here. He wrote the script. Lou Klein, Dory Lenz, Shirley Morris, Marie Panarelli, Jerry Wilkerson. Those are all the people, and they deserve a round of applause for the work they've done this week. Begin eating your salad, if you will, because as I say, it's a long evening. And we're going to have our honorees after the dessert is given. But there are 2 that Pat mentioned. I'm going to introduce one, and Pat's going to introduce another. And these are 2 of our broadcast pioneers who passed away recently. And the first one, if Dave Abramson is ready, the first one, ladies and gentlemen, is Bill Branson from KYW. And with that, I'd like to ask Patsy, his widow, to come up and accept our presentation, placing Bill Branson in our Broadcast Pioneers Hall of Fame.
My family and I want to thank you. That was really a wonderful presentation. We're touched. I'm overwhelmed. You know, if Bill was here, he'd probably have something funny to say, and he'd tell you a joke, and he'd be clever, really. But I know more than anything, he'd be very grateful, because he really did appreciate things that happened, the good things, and the Lord. He was always appreciative. And especially he would be tonight because his children were here. He loved his work. He really did. He loved broadcasting. And he loved being a newscaster. He loved being a sportscaster. And he loved doing all of it, playing the records that he used to do way back. It was always good. It was always fun. in the old days. And when he had to stop working because of his health, and he had to retire, it was very difficult for him. Because he really didn't want to. But he knew one thing he could do, and that was to keep on being involved with AFTRA, because he cared about it very much. It was very important to him. He told me about it many times. But more than that, he said it was a privilege to serve. And he loved the people that he worked with. And all I can say is that I want to thank AFTRA for all their help and all the kindness and goodness. And also I want to thank the radio station. And I don't see where they are, but that's all right. All right, there you are. Thank you, KYW, and thank you, boss. You've been a great help many times. And last but not least, I want to thank the pioneers, broadcast pioneers, because this is a beautiful hour and a lovely dinner. So God bless you all, and enjoy your dinner.
Thank you very much. You know, very, very quickly, I was working at WRCB as a disc jockey when word came out that RCB was going to be changed to KYW. They were going to go to an all-news format. Everyone thought that this was going to bomb. I don't know if you remember those days. They said, my gosh, I can't even fill a 5-minute newscast. How are they going to do it 24 hours a day? And they were very kind. They invited myself and all the disc jockeys and the newscasters to come on and become newscasters at KY if they'd like to. And along with Bill Branson, some names you may remember, Vince Lee, and John Franklin. You remember that? Franklin, the most famous name in Philadelphia. They all joined KYW, and the three of them became the bulwark for what KY in the beginning of the days of 24 hours of news. So you gentlemen are to be saluted for giving us something new, and that was 39 years ago. Hard to believe. So again, Bill Branson was certainly a pioneer. And where's AFTRA? AFTRA is here to say, there's AFTRA over there, the American Federation of Radio and Television Artists, my union, and we thank them very much for being in attendance. Now Pat Delphi is going to introduce the widow of our former president.
Thank you, Bill. The next gentleman we're honoring loved broadcasting. It was in his bones, in his heart, in his mind, in every breath he took. But he really was rarely, if ever, on the air. But the most important thing is, if it wasn't for him and people like him, none of us would have been on the air. Because he's the person who went out and sold advertising. He was one of the best salesmen in the country, started locally in Philadelphia, went on to become a national executive in sales, and was one of the top salespeople in the country. But he was also just a phenomenal person. A great administrator. He served as vice president when I was president, then he became president, and we were like frick and frack, constantly together. And then this past year, he was taken from us too quickly and too early. But his name will be forever on our lips and our minds as broadcast pioneers in Philadelphia. All the members know and loved him, and we'd like to present him now into the Hall of Fame. Ladies and gentlemen, Patty Papacy.
Good evening, everybody. It's really a bittersweet pleasure for me to accept this award on its behalf, because this organization, amongst the many organizations that he was involved with, was probably his very favorite. I want to tell you just a few things about my relationship with Ed. My grandson, Nick Winship, is applying to boarding school. And one of the things on the application was to write an essay about a special person who made a positive influence on his life. And Nick wrote his essay on his step-grandfather, Ed Papazian. Ed was really a very special person, and special in a number of ways, and only a few of which I will mention. Like most people, actually, he loved meeting the famous and notable people. But what was unusual about him was that he was totally relaxed and not at all intimidated by them. And in the last few years, he met and chatted up the chairman of the Philadelphia Museum of Art and Darnay Court, the publisher of the New York Times, Punch, Sulzberger, and one of our Supreme Court justices, Sandra Day O'Connor. No problem for our Ed. But what was really special about Ed was that, to me, was that he had such a way and affinity with everyday people. And I have to tell you a few anecdotes, very short, that happened to me recently. In the last summer after Ed had died, a man came to my door dressed in brown, an employee of United Parcel Services. And he came in to my house with a bundle, I don't remember what it was, but he carried it into the house, and he looked at me, cocked his eye, and said, "How's my buddy?" And when I told him that Ed was gone, he said, "Could I sit down for a minute?" And he did, and we talked for a moment about Ed. A few weeks after his funeral, I went to the dry cleaner to pick up a lot of dry cleaning that had been there for a long time. And the Korean proprietor looked at me with a smile and she said, "How is he? The last time he was here, he didn't look too well." And when I told her that Ed was gone, she cried. She came around the counter with her sister crying, and they embraced me and said, "He was a really good man, and we loved him. He was a good man, and we loved him." And they helped me onto the car with the dry cleaning. Many of you know that Ed was a fervent exerciser and went to the Y on almost a daily basis. Well, there was a little old man at the Y named Mike who met and greeted people as they came in and scanned your membership card. And he and Ed had this thing going on where they played this game about this baseball player of yore and who he played for and what his position was. And they just had a great time doing that. Now I go to the Y. Mike always says hello when I see him and often speaks of Ed. But Wednesday, just 2 days ago, as I was leaving, Mike was standing at the coffee machine, and he put his hand on my arm and told me how many people, members of the Y, keep talking about Ed. And then he looked at me and he said, "Not a day goes by that I don't think of him. Not a day goes by I don't think of him." Thank you very much for this honor. No honor would have pleased Ed more. Thank you.
You can meet him the first time and you think he's your best buddy because that's how he treated you. Ed Papazian, and thank you, Patty Papazian. Ladies and gentlemen, enjoy dinner. We'll continue our program after dinner. and another friend, and I said, listen, I want to do something to help the students of broadcasting. Because I can remember when I wanted to get in broadcasting, I didn't know a soul. I had nobody to go to ask how do I do it, whatever. And I would have loved to have somebody be a mentor to me in the young time. I finally did get one by accident, but I said, can we do something to create a way to get young people involved? And Frank Hogan from Rowan University, he was the chairman of our project. Frank, take it out, please. Under his chairmanship, we created a symposium which we held at Channel 10. We were sold out, just like it's a sellout. Students from all over the Delaware Valley area, from all universities, came, enjoyed a chance to be with broadcasters, to listen to them talk, who have the design all ready to be in broadcasting, and they can join. And it's going to be like an ad hoc group. Well, they'll run it themselves, they'll get the advice from all of our people, but they'll be able to meet with broadcasters who are in the business today and benefit them to get in. And our president is Brian Sanze de Lettieri. Is our vice president, Stephanie Davis. Anyway, if you want to be part of our organization, we are open to you. It's an organization where people stay in it. So much so that a lot of people refer to us as the old farts of broadcasting, as opposed to the broadcast pioneers. But we have them, they are with us, they provide a great deal of lore, but they're very active today. And I'd like to introduce a few of them who keep on coming back and participate with us. This man is not only on our committee, but we named him Person of the Year in 1983. And then in 1993, we put him into the Hall of Fame. Lou Klein, where are you, Lou? Our Person of the Year was a man from 6 and Temple, Channel 6 and Temple University, John Roberts, the professor. And of course, later on in 1996, we put him into the Hall of Fame as well. In 1989, Gene McCurdy was our Person of the Year. Gene Wright. And Gene was also put in the Hall of Fame in 1999. In 1990, Ed Hurst. Where are you, Ed? And then he became a member of the Hall of Fame in 1996, Ed Hurst. 1993, Dory Lenz. Where are you, Ed? Great Dory Lenz. And we put her in the Hall of Fame in 1999. And then last year, 2001, as I mentioned earlier, Captain and Mrs. Noah became our Person of the Year. Now we wised up. We said if you become a Person of the Year, you should automatically go to the Hall of Fame, and they are also in the Hall of Fame. And specifically in the Hall of Fame, 94, a guy who we're honoring tonight as Person of the Year, Larry Kane, was put into the Hall of Fame. Going to be the oldest broadcaster. Well, I shouldn't say oldest broadcaster, but probably the guy in this room who's been in this business the longest. 62 years of broadcasting and going as strong as ever. Gene Crane, where are you? When he was a young kid in 1995. And 1998, Ed Harvey. Ed, where are you? There, back there. In 1999, we inducted the gentleman to my left, our president of the organization right now, Bill Weber. Bill. In the year 2000, that sounds like a song, Austin W. Calder Jr. Austin. Year we had Neil Harvey. Where's the professor? Dr. Neil. They can see it. Stand up. who was from my hometown, Sid Mark. Sidney. And somehow they forgot, in a way, they gave me the opportunity to be part of the Hall of Fame last year, and I thank them very much. So tonight we're doing the same thing, putting people who have worked their butts off in this business, who have survived this business, and as all of you know, it's not an easy business to be in or to last in. And the gentleman we have as our first honoree tonight is going into the Hall of Fame because he started something at WCAM. As a matter of fact, we have a couple of people who started, who are being honored tonight, started at WCAM in addition to me. And this fella came on with his own sound, created a whole, I mean, talk about rap today, he was the rap artist of the 60s and still is going strong. And we want to let you know just a little bit more about Jerry Blavin. Before I introduce the Geeter, I want to introduce his announcer. On the discophonic scene. Gene Cray was his announcer.
This is the most intrusive thing I've ever done. Two things. Yahoo! Mountain Dew, the Geeter! I said, that's not my style. They said, no, they'll never know who you are. So I did the opening, Yahoo! Mountain Dew! And on he comes, thank you, Genophonic Gene! I remember the day that Sammy Davis Jr. was there, and after the show was over, he walked off shaking his head and said, I don't believe it. I don't believe it.
Thank you very much, Steve. Ladies and gentlemen, the hardest working guy in radio today and over all these days, Jerry Blavin. All right.
I thought this was going to turn into an Italian wedding about 20 minutes ago. But I am really gratified because I look around and the people that I see here are the people who have contributed to my career in one way or the other. And the only thing that I can say, it is an honor for me as a young kid, Italian, Jewish, from a neighborhood, never planned to be where I am today, never planned to be up on the stage with you people, because there are people that came here before me. Ed Hurst, Dean Tyler, Joe Niagara, Sid Mark. You are the people who created Georgie Woods, Jocko, Dick Clark. These were the people who planted in my mind. And Bob Horn, whether you realize it or not, was the man who introduced me into this industry. And if it weren't for me dancing at the age of 13, sneaking in the bandstand, I probably would not be up here today. And the amazing thing is, I look around here, you guys are called the pioneers. And I said, it's so wonderful for me to be as an Indian, to finally be with the pioneers. Because I've been an Indian all my life. When I began as the rebel jock by the big tick-tock on the Tower Power clock. And I gotta tell you, the greatest thing that I've had is the freedom to be me. You guys did it at a time when radio was exciting, when radio had the ability for a guy to go up there and express himself. We communicated back there. And the great thing about this organization is that for young people today, we, and thank you for this, and I will be a part of this, have to go to let young people know that radio is important, that you've got to communicate to people. That's what our industry is. And to the corporate executives that might be here, forget about the dollars and the crash and the tash and all that. You got to go back to what radio was about. And that's delivering people who have the ability, like me, to be here, to have the opportunity to be free, to be a Geeter and develop a persona. And I thank you all for that. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. Thank you very much.
I happened to be there on the first night that he went on the air. And actually, he didn't go on the air playing records. He was broadcasting from the Venus Lounge, I think it was every Thursday night for a half an hour, and he would go around the room just saying, hello, what's your name, and how are you doing? Now, the guy happened to be there with his mistress rather than his wife. There was a little bit of trouble here and there, but that's how he started. He basically was on for a half an hour a night, once a week, and then one of those nights, it wasn't too long after he first started, we had like a 20-inch snowstorm. And the guy that was at the studio at the time, who was supposed to work till midnight and be relieved by another person coming in to do the all-night show, well, he was called and told that the guy coming in at midnight's not coming in. So he was at the board running the show for the Geeter, and he told the Geeter, hey, I'm going to have to be here all night long. And I got things to do. I got to go to work tomorrow and so forth. Sarah says, I'll come over. And he did, and that literally started the history right there. Started the history. He came over, was on all night long till Jack Lamar got in at about
6 in the morning.
About 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning. He was able to trudge in from Cherry Hill, and that was the beginning of the Geeter, and he's going as strong as ever. Congratulations, Gary. Our next gentleman, and this is pure coincidence, started at WCAM too. He was a young man, did a program for the church, Our Lady of Fatima. We had a Spanish program at that time on the air. And he would come in and be the locutor of that particular program, talking about the church and the programs they were doing for the community. And from that, little seed started to plant that grew and kept on growing to the point where now he has the longest continuous running Hispanic program probably in the world, certainly in this country. Two items here. One is a letter to him from a gentleman said, Dear Diego, congratulations on your induction this evening into the Broadcast Pioneers Hall of Fame. Yeah, prisoners sometimes. You've been a pioneer in the best meaning of the word because 32 years ago you were a beacon of light for our Hispanic heritage viewers. And for all those years, Puerto Rican Panorama has served as a source of vital information, dialogue, and yes, even entertainment for its audience. We're proud to count you as part of the Channel 6 family. God bless you and your family. Sincerely, Dave Davis. He couldn't be here tonight, but he definitely wanted you to know how himself. I've got a proclamation with 1,000 whereases and whereases, and I won't go through that right now. Just to say that it's a proclamation written here and sent by James McGreevy, the governor of New Jersey. Ladies and gentlemen, let's take a look at Diego Castellanos from the beginning up to today. My good friend and a great broadcaster, Diego Castellanos. Congratulations, Diego.
Thank you, Pat. Thank you very much. It only took me 48 years to get this. And I wrote a couple of notes because I was afraid that after I sat down, I would think of things that I should have said. So I didn't want to take the chance. As Pat indicated, my first on-air experience was on radio at WCAM in 1954. That's where I first met Pat Delsey, and he became my mentor and my friend. I also met Jerry Glavitt there for the first time. Then I came to television, and I've had mentors throughout my life, from the various jobs and careers. And when I first came to Channel 6, Larry King was my mentor. He was the Channel 6 news anchor. When I got there, he befriended me and would even call me to get the inside story, if you pardon the pun, to get the inside story on issues and even to check on the proper pronunciation of Hispanic names. I was hired by someone who's also a member of the Hall of Fame here, Jim McCurry. Now, I also met at Channel 6, and I need to mention is Dr. Neil Harvey, He was the night manager at the time, and he also became one of my mentors there. So, to quote another Broadcast Pioneers Hall of Famer, to say that this is the proudest moment of my life would be an understatement. And that's not to downplay other proud moments of my life. After all, I was proud the day that I got my doctorate. I was proud the day that I was commissioned in the military as a brand new second lieutenant. I was proud the day that I got my pilot's license. I was proud of my children, of each of my children. And I was proud the day that I was married, both times. Everybody makes mistakes. Look at Mark Howard. Better yet, don't look at Mark Howard. The devil made me say that. I was so proud the first day that I went on the air at the Channel 6 on September 13th, 1970. And I am proud of the many awards and accolades that I have received over the years from my own community. But what makes this recognition tonight so very special is that it comes from an institution that I have long admired, the legends of the broadcasting community in Philadelphia, the icons of the mainstream broadcast establishment. I am honored, I am humbled, I would even say I don't really belong in this group, except that you might believe it and take it back. I don't want to take that chance. But it's particularly important to me because I am the first Hispanic to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. And that is another... As we walked in here tonight, my wife, who had never attended any of these dinners, looked around and said, "Damn, all little white, isn't it?" We're going to change all that. But this is an indication that we Latinos are becoming an integral part of every aspect of the Delaware Valley. But I think that here alone, I have so many people to thank and not enough time to do it appropriately. But I certainly thank all of you who are here in my behalf tonight, and I thank those who wanted to come that could not be accommodated, and I thank all the viewers of Puerto Rican Panorama over the years. But most of all, I am extremely grateful to Channel 6, 6ABC, especially the management for keeping the show on the air uninterrupted for 32 years. I thank... my show's not a moneymaker. We don't sell anything. It's a public affairs show. It serves a purpose, and they recognize that, and they also understand that there's a loyal community out there who's been watching my show, and when they tune in to Channel 6, that's not the only thing they watch. And I keep on reminding Dave Davis, the general manager, that that's why Channel 6 is the #1 station.
Very good.
I thank Public Affairs, the production crews, the folks from Action News, and the members of the station's Community Advisory Board who are here tonight, some of whom are here tonight. And I thank the Spanish language media in the greater Philadelphia metropolitan area who've been promoting the show for years. My show is very unique. It has a unique audience. Thanksgiving coming up next week reminds me that Channel 6 has a breakfast at the Four Seasons for the VIPs marching in the parade, including the station's on-air personalities. Every year, as we walk into the hotel, I would be the first one to be recognized, because I was recognized by the doorman. Who was Hispanic. Let me tell you how it went. All the children would recognize Captain Noah. All the older folks would recognize Larry Ferrari. And the kitchen help would recognize me. That was okay, because then they would take care of me. And that's the way it was. Well, not anymore. Total strangers come to me and tell me they watch the show and enjoy it. And a lot of these people are not Hispanic. And I want you to know that as a consequence of this induction tonight, I have received congratulatory messages and citations, not only from the governor of New Jersey, as you heard, but from the governor of Pennsylvania as well, and some members of the legislature. This is my last page, Pat.
The hook is coming.
And I received other messages from elected officials as well as from Tony Orlando. Remember him? Who I interviewed recently. And most importantly, of course, from the station manager. I thank you all. And before I close, let me introduce my family. And I'm not planning a third marriage. My family, let me introduce you to my oldest daughter from my first marriage, who happens to be Pat Delsey's goddaughter. Gives you an idea how far this guy and I go back. Kathy, sitting there with a red dress.
Stand up, Captain.
Kathy, would you please stand up? That's my oldest daughter. My youngest daughter, this is with my Karen family, Felicia. And my son, Carlos. Now, Carlos is sitting... Prince Carlos. Carlos is seriously contemplating a career in broadcasting. But let me tell you something. When he pretends at home, when he pretends that he's rehearsing before the cameras, he doesn't say, "Good morning, I'm Carlos Castellanos. Welcome to Puerto Rican Panorama." He says, "Good evening. I'm Carlos Castellanos, and this is Action News." There's one daughter missing, Olivia, who turned 17 today, as a matter of fact, and tonight is her junior prom. I argue with her that this event tonight was more important. You're laughing. I thought, this is more important than a junior prom, but I lost the argument. And last but not least, so that I have to go look for a third wife. Let me not forget, and I know that Pat Delsey last year forgot to introduce his wife. And I don't want to commit that sin. I know what that's like. My wife, Pam. Very patient, very supportive, very protective. Thank you, Pam, and thank you all.
Thank you very much, Diego. And I did forget. Well, of course, I had so many kids to introduce, and daughters and sons-in-law, that by the time I introduced all them, I forgot that Margie was still there without being introduced. I think I slept in the barn for about 3 weeks. And, congratulations, Diego Castellanos, one more time.
Actually, I was on Diego's show. I was born in Havana, Cuba, and Diego was nice enough to invite me to be on Puerto Rican Panorama as well. Un millón de gracias, señor. The next lady that we're going to introduce is a woman who has been on Channel 10 for many years. You know, when you think of longevity in this business, we talk about 13 weeks or 26 weeks. Here's or maybe 5 years. I mean, Friends has been on for 10 years. Is that right? Something like that. This lady's been around, been all over, been on soap operas. She's not only the first, or one of the first African-American to appear as an anchor and also as a news reporter. She was probably one of the first women to have that job. So any of you ladies in the audience here in Philadelphia, you know that your roots go back to this young lady as we usher into the Hall of Fame from Channel 10, Edie Huggins. Edie Huggins into our Hall of Fame.
I truly, truly appreciate this. I think I'm in marvelous company. I cannot tell you how many times I've been asked to join the Broadcast Pioneers, but unfortunately I am still a street reporter, and I never know where I'm going to be when you have your luncheons, whether it's Delaware or New Jersey or Pennsylvania. But when I retire, if I ever retire, I hope to be an active member of this wonderful, wonderful organization. I just wanted to share a couple of thoughts. When I came to Channel 10 back in 1966, I brought with me a degree in nursing education, and then later I brought 2 children who grew up, a van full of furniture, and a gorgeous Cocker Spaniel dog named Penny, who we couldn't keep in the apartment where we lived, so we had to board Penny out. I never once thought of broadcasting. Soap operas, as you saw, were the closest things that I came to television. And coming to Philadelphia was a very frightening thing. I knew one person when I came here, and things were fine. People were nice to me in the station until the camera went on, and that little red tally light. And I realized after letters started coming in, because most of them were not very nice letters. They were letters like, why do they have you? You're taking the job of a nice blonde-haired, blue-eyed woman. And the interesting thing about it, not only did I get negative comments from non-blacks, but I got negative comments from blacks, like why do they have to go out of town to bring someone into Philadelphia? So these were the things that I was facing. I was trying to be mother and father, breadwinner, and everything, and I was getting static, and I panicked. But thank God there were people like John Facenda. And I know he's watching down tonight and saying, Edie, don't screw up. Herb Clark, Tommy Brookshire, Pete Retzlaw, they were there for me. Dr. Charles Lee, and I was so saddened to hear him passed. Beautiful man. Dominic Quinn, Win Moore. They taught me what I didn't know the right verb to use. I would go into radio, which is right next to television then, and Dom Quinn, I don't know how many of you remember him, Win Moore, but fabulous people, fabulous people. And so good to me. And Dory Lenz was always there for me. And they encouraged me. They said, don't let them get you down. And so now I look back, and other than Gene Crane, every time he goes to Mexico, I'm saying, well, maybe he won't come back, and I can be the longest person continuously. And I don't mean not come back, but just go. But I have been since for 36 years. It's been good times, bad times. I've gone through 14 news directors. Paul Buck is one, and by the way, he was one of the best. As a matter of fact, his biggest problem was he was too nice. He couldn't hire anybody.
That's really what's left of my career. Thank you.
But I think if I have any kind of legacy, I had no footsteps in which to follow. Marcia Rose was doing a beautiful job on Channel 3, but there were no African American women in business at the time. Well, Trudy Hayes came 6 months before I. But at my station, I was the first. And I didn't quite know how to go. And I don't know if you have to be a minority to look for those kinds of footsteps. But if I have a legacy, I just hope that through the years that I am creating footsteps for other young people. And it's difficult because it's like a two-edged sword. I have 2 wonderful young people. I have 2.5 because my son finally got engaged at age of 3. Don't blush, baby. But it's difficult because when you get new people in, they have to reinvent the wheel. And you want to say, you know what? We did that 10 years ago. Or we had that format 20 years ago, but you can't say it. You have to encourage them. and you have to go along with it, because many times, like my boss right now is younger than my youngest child. They really don't know how to handle me, because I'm a mother figure, and when he wants to yell and curse at me, he can. Now, he doesn't curse. I got a good respect this time. But it's kind of like that never land. They don't know how to deal with me. So some call me Mother Huggins, others call me Miss Edie. And every now and then, the rule is if you're over 30, you can call me Edie. If you're under 30, you have to call me Miss Edie. But when I look at those fresh faces, I sometimes am a little hurt when we see someone stick a microphone into the face of someone who's just lost a mother or a father or a child, and how do you feel? Well, how would you feel? And so what I try to tell young reporters, just put yourself in other people's footsteps. Just listen to the answer of the first question you have, because chances are 9 times out of 10, your second question will be better if you listen to the answer to their first question. I mean, don't just go down the list. So these are just some of the things. I try to maintain a positive attitude with each new assignment, and some of them are still dumb, but you know, that be a mortgage. Every day I try to meet it with joy and enthusiasm. I thank so many people. I thank my mother, who was a mother and father to me. She was 45 when I was born. My dad was 65. So, see, guys, hey, it ain't too late. You know? She was my friend, and she was everything to me. And I would like to think, built some strong character in me. I thank God, because none of us would be where we are today if you believe in God, and I do. And so He has blessed me. I thank my children, because they keep me on a level plane. They keep me young in spirit, because they say, Mom, you are so much fun. Because if we tell you the same story over 5 times, and because your memory's getting so bad, you laugh every time. And it's true. It ain't easy being over 65, let me tell you. But I do thank all of you. Several of my friends, my neighbors, and Paul and Henry, and just people, and my financial man over there, who's not giving me very good reports these days. I know it's not your fault. I know it's the market, okay? But Westcott, just thank Westcott. So I want to thank you all very much. I'd like for my son and my daughter to stand, and my soon-to-be daughter-in-law. This is my family. My broadcasting family, those people who've been there to support me through the years, the Paul Glucks, the Larry Kings, I thank you for being on my side, and may I have many more years. Thank you all so much.
We have a group that selects the Hall of Famers, and when I was pleased to call Edie and let her know that she had been picked as one of them for this year, I told her that all the money went for scholarship programs that we give to college students. She said she does the same thing at her church. So you can tell that she practices, she walks the walk and talks the talk. Edie Huggins, good lady. This next gentleman is a man that I've worked for probably all of my life. I've probably known him longer than I've known my son and my daughter. Dean Tyler's given me a job wherever he became a program director, which is the greatest compliment in the world that you can give a guy. Good work. We do appreciate it. We do salute him, ladies and gentlemen. Our next Hall of Famer, Dean Tyler. With us on December when we have the jocks from WIP. And when Dean started the WIP and started that sound that permeated all over the world, it was his idea. Billboard magazine selected Dean Tyler the program director of the decade. I mean, this is the kind of accolades that you give to Dean Tyler from our Hall of Fame.
I don't know what to say, except that I noticed that everybody that's being honored tonight is short. Check it out. Check it out. And Bill's tall. So there's a statement here somewhere. I would also like to say to Jerry Blavitt that Tony Orlando was only kidding. He sent a note to Diego, but actually he wanted us to get one too here. And by the way, Pat, you mentioned 15 years is enough.
Yeah.
My kids want to know why they're not members of the Broadcast Pioneers, because they feel like they've been in it ever since they were born. Because that's been my life, and it's been a great life. Culminated tonight by Gene Crane buying me my first drink here tonight. Thank you, Gene. And if I had known that Herb Clark would do the honorary, I wouldn't have come. And by the way, Frank Hogan, where's Frank?
I'm standing already.
Frank said, you're short too. Frank said he spent a lot of money to get me in here tonight, and I appreciate that because since you're responsible for the youth movement, here I am. Just a few sidebars. See, everybody says Dean never prepares, he just sort of ad-libs. But I had to take a few notes. Thank God you were all shorter than me, except Edie. I think we're about on the par. And there was no lady that I would rather, or a person in the world that I would rather follow than Edie Huggins. Except for one thing. When you're last next to the big guy, you really have to go to the men's room. And I was afraid to leave the room. Anyway, I thank you very much for this honor. It's a great thing. You know, for years, Shelley Gross tried to get me more involved in the Broadcast Pioneers, Dean. When I was doing the morning show with Elaine Sansini, who, by the way, would have been here tonight, but she's celebrating. I'm telling you, I got more mentions on Court TV in the last 4 weeks than I got on radio for the last 6 months. Unbelievable. Anyway, I lost my train of thought. Anyway, Shelley used to call me. Once he called me at 11:15 at night when I was doing the morning show. Now, the world that listened to PEN, which Shelley swore he did, listened to PEN in the early morning. In the last 3 years, well, 3 of the last 4 years that I was at WPEN, I did the morning show with Elaine and Art Andrews, who's over here. Thank you, Art. I didn't ask you to stand up. Another shortcut. Anyway, what the heck was I saying? Anyway, Shelley called me at 11 o'clock, and I said, Shelley, I got to get up in 3 hours. And he said, yeah, but I need you to be more involved in the broadcast pioneers. I said, if you keep this up, I won't live long enough to be involved in the broadcast pioneers. Anyway, I think that leads me to what I really want to say. A couple of things. One, it's true that I was going to be a veterinarian. Believe it or not, there are a lot of happy dogs out there. I got into broadcasting, and that included television as well as radio. And it was the very best ride anybody could ever have. I loved every minute of it. And I would like you all to give yourselves a hand for being a part of this industry that is so much fun. Come on. And I look down here and I see Larry King, a giant in the industry, and he loves rock and roll. I've never understood that. But that's okay. Because when I got into it, I thought that I wanted to take the business seriously, and I was going to be a veterinarian, and I was going to do good things for animals and people and all that. And when I started working out at the University of Delaware doing a radio show in Wilmington, I thought this is kind of frivolous. You know, it's fun, but it's not serious. And where's the meaning here? And then I learned very quickly that people care about broadcasting, radio and television, of which I've done my share of both. And I suddenly was impressed with what I could help to bring to the populace, to the people. Wow, what a responsibility we have. And I cherish that. And I've always worked very hard at it. And I believe in it sincerely. And I was astounded when I realized that I didn't have to be in medicine. I could do what entertained me, what I enjoyed, what I had fun at, and at the same time bring something to the people. And so without being heavy, I just want you to know that everybody in this room has brought so much joy to the world, whether it's Philadelphia or any other markets, and I've worked in a lot of them. It's been a wonderful ride. It really has been. And what I would like to do, I could go on for another 20 minutes. I was on the air, you know about jocks, they talk. Right, Sid? Oh, no, you know. Anyway, I would like to just mention a few of the names that I give credit to for whatever fame I've had and why I'm here tonight. And I would start with Ken Garland, Joe Niagara, Bill Weber. This is not in alphabetical order.
Okay.
Tom Moran.
Yo!
Tom LeMaine.
Yes!
Where the hell is he? Ed Hurst and the late Joe Brady. Ed. And I can't mention Ed without mentioning Sissy because she is a driving force in broadcasting today. As is my wife. I've learned since I've cut back on my obligations that we have a home in Brigantine now. It's our home, but it's her house. When I go, it's her house. Dick Clayton, the late Dick Clayton, a legend. Elaine Sansini, who I've mentioned already, I couldn't ask for a better partner, a better friend, or a more wonderful lady. We all have, I'm sure, mixed emotions about that, but she's a special, special woman. Larry Wexler. Does anybody in this room know Larry Wexler? Carol Lebron. With Norman Lebron, who probably has taught half the people in this room. Don Cannon, Jim Nettleton, High Lid, Nat Wright, who's in the room. Bill St. James, who was one of my finest when he was a kid. I was working at WIP and they said, what are you, nuts? This kid's 17 years of age. He can't work at an adult station. I said, want to bet? Now he makes more money than 2/3 of us in the room doing voiceovers. The late Jay Cook at WFIL, who I admired and we were the best of friends. Ed McCusker, one of the legends of sales in Philadelphia. Roy Schwartz, who many of you may not know, but he was the guy that got me started. In 1965, I think it was, I was with my wife, who has since passed away, not to be confused with Mary Lou, my second wife. Hi. And I got this call saying, we want you to come to Wibbage and do the overnight show. And I said, overnights? I said, Philadelphia? You bet. And Roy was my mentor. He was the first guy to hire me, the first guy to fire me in a major market. And we are still close tonight. And if there wasn't, the room was crowded, he'd be here. So I have to mention him. Paul Rust, Merrill Reese, the late Charlie Swift. I'll throw in a few out-of-towners. William B. Williams, Ted Brown, Gene Clavin. These are the guys that have really been my success. They've made it possible for me to do whatever I've done. And, that doesn't exclude anybody else I haven't mentioned. I look around the room, I see John Carlton, I see Bob Craig. Bob Craig, who applied for a job with me at WIP. I sent him a rejection note a few years later. We were colleagues. He was running MGK, I was running BEN, and he posted the note that said, I reject you. Nicer terms than that. But it's just been a wonderful ride, and it's all been because of wonderful people, a great, great business. And I thought I was going to miss it, but I'm getting back into it today. So if you'd like my card, I'm still doing stuff. If I could just steal a line from somebody else that did it, I think it may have been Diego, and ask my family, and this is my personal family, including my mother, who will be 90 in January, grandson Logan, who is 6. And my granddaughter, who is 5 and isn't allowed to be here when Logan's in the room because the two of them carry on too bad. If I could ask you all to stand up, I would love it. My wife, Mary Lou, my son, Brian, my brother, and my extended family from WPTN. Stand up. Andy Corbin, Mike Coe, Art Andrews, Mark Paul, Roy Kinnaman, Rhonda Hitler, who's signing that thing? Oh, Cheryl Ritchie. It's been a great ride. Yeah, and you're right, Tom, I never did hire you. Tom Romaine, who always said, you hired me at IP, and I haven't worked with you since. One of the best guys I know. And that's what the business is about, relationships. I love these people, including Pat Delsey and Bill.
I got the hook.
Oh, hey, okay. I'm so short I can't even see it. Thank you. Thank you all.
By the way, this is his anniversary. Yeah. His wedding anniversary. And his birthday.
Thanks for coming.
Believe it or not, it's the day that Kennedy was assassinated.
No, you didn't have to say that.
However, it is also my anniversary with my wife, Constance. And now here's Pat to introduce the person of the year.
Thank you, Billy. Happy anniversary to you. You threw quite a party. You and Dean threw a hell of a party for your anniversary. We come to the Fiesta Resistance, and this gentleman, as they say, needs no introduction, but I'll give him one anyway. There's one word, I guess, that describes him probably best, and that is survivor. To be able to be in this business for anything longer than a couple of years is crazy. You just don't do it generally. To be in this business for as long as he has and to have survived 6, 10, New York, 3, and so much more is incredible. And I think we'll be watching and enjoying him for many years to come here in the Philadelphia market. That's my feeling, and I think that will come to pass. But to look at him nightly on the news over these many, many years, you wouldn't think that he was a guy that ran with the Beatles way, way, way back, which he did. And he's an author as well, a multi-talented person who definitely deserves to be our Person of the Year. Let's find out more about Larry King.
First person I heard on the radio. And then I looked up on the television and I saw the big news team with John Facenda and Edie Huggins, and I said, you know, who is she? And she was so powerful and so charismatic, and she really paved the way for so many people. Not just minorities, Hispanics, blacks, but especially, as was noted earlier, women. To be honored on the same night with Jerry Blavitt, who once gave me a dollar bill, which I still have. And he wrote on the dollar bill, "You're going to be a big star in this town," and I thought he was out of his mind. And he was so inspirational and so influential in my earlier career. And Dean Tyler, who's graced the airwaves of this community for so many years. And of course, Diego Castellanos, who I remember wanted this program so badly and convinced the management at Channel 6 so aggressively that before there was Univision and before there was Telemundo, there was Diego Castellanos. And by the way, it was unheard of in America. We forget how far we've come for a Latino, Hispanic, Puerto Rican to be on television in the first place. So to have that program for 32 years is a great, great achievement. And to be honored with all these people tonight is very, very humbling. It's easy for old-timers broadcasting to say, boy, the business has changed, it's crummy, it's not like it used to be. When I first came to Philadelphia, Gunnar Beck, who was an anchor man, told me the business is done. It's over. Everything. It's just horrible. And Jack Hyland was my first radio news director, lamented those things to me over the years. And Alan Stone, the great morning broadcaster of WFI, they would say, what is the business coming to, And it would be easy for me to say the same thing, but I'm not going to. The business has changed dramatically. I started in television when we had film, and it used to take me 7.5 minutes to get from City Hall to Channel 6 with 200 feet of film, some of it shot by Bob Kravitz over there, the great opera tenor, the baritone. And then we went to videotape. That was a major development. And then I did my first live satellite broadcast in 1979 from Tel Aviv, Israel. And I was so excited. I think it cost the station $10,000 per minute. Today, satellite television is instant. So technologically, the business has changed. But from a people standpoint, it really hasn't. We still have people who report the news and broadcast the news. And there's only one change that's happened that to me is kind of disturbing. And that's one of the reasons that I'm very proud to have received this honor tonight. Now, over the years, Donna can tell you, we have a cellar full of plaques and medals, mostly for people who wanted to come and speak. And I've had tremendous honors. Emmy Awards, I've been honored by journalism organizations and schools and universities. But I would tell you that this is probably the most important honor I've ever received. And there's a reason for that. I never understood the broadcast pioneers until about 9 or 10 years ago. I always thought the broadcast pioneers sent you an invitation to join around the same time you received those mass mailings from AARP. I thought it was a passage in a rite of time. Then I began to understand why the broadcast pioneers exist. And it's really two words: respect and appreciation. Broadcast pioneers, I used to think they were a bunch of men and women who sat around. Every time I went to a Broadcast Pioneers event, I'd have to get back to work, and it'd be 3:30, and they'd be sitting and talking, and then I realized they were retired. And I thought, well, what are they doing? And then I realized that Luke Klein taught me, and Gene McCurdy, and George Kohler, and some other great broadcasters, that they were really about respecting the institution of broadcasting and what it's about, the beauty of the business, the concept that we in television news have this tremendous and awesome and extraordinary power to present the news and to change people's lives. And then there was the second word, appreciation, respect and appreciation. These are people who began this organization out of a love for the business and a appreciation of the people who endured it. As Steve Tyler suggested, the ups and the downs and the in-betweens, and there certainly are, but what a hell of a way to make a living. And what an extraordinary way to be able to communicate and change people's lives. So I respect broadcast pioneers for their civility, their respect, for the appreciation that goes across station lines and station boundaries. We, too much in our business, radio, television, even newspapers, have so much competitive edge that we sometimes forget that we're really talking about people. So the broadcast pioneers are honoring people from all the stations tonight, and have over the years. We sometimes, even on our own newsrooms and our own stations, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It would be at Channel 10, Channel 6, Channel 3, 17, Channel 29, CNA, Channel 12, all the stations in this community. It doesn't really matter where you are. We sometimes injure ourselves in our own environments with a lack of civility and a lack of respect and a lack of appreciation for the rigors that we endure in this business. The really great broadcasters are the ones who understand that broadcasting goes beyond the boundaries of the competitive environment and have respect for other stations and other people. And eventually, by the way, those broadcasters are successful because they never forget their respect for the viewer or the listener. And that's the key. So I'm really honored. I mean, I think this organization is truthfully an organization that stands for the best of our business. And the best of our business is in this room. And I will repeat and reiterate what Dean Tyler said. Perhaps it's because I've worked in 3 stations in this town that I feel like it's about 25 degrees of separation, where almost everybody at every table has crossed my path sometime in the last 37 years. I love my years at Channel 6. I love my years at Channel 10. The extraordinary 10 years I've had so far at Channel 3 have been just fantastic, with the bulletin and with the anchoring of the news and the opportunities, and most of all, the chance to teach young people about the future of our business. So, in closing, Diego, just one page, Edie, just a page. Dean Tyler, I mean, this is not your show. It's just a pleasure to be here and to be able to share this with my family, my extended family at KYW, and all the people I've worked with. Thank you.